Welcome to the Tom Matt Show. You are walking through the front door of the refirement zone. And now, your host, Tom Matt.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Tom Matt Show. So much fun. If I ever remember, doing this thing for 15 years now, you'd think I would learn how to do this show, okay? But in my ever knowing, the refirement years and refirement and everything that we do with refirement, keep learning, baby. Keep learning. Keep the brain cells going because you may need them someday. And I tell you, it just helps build resilience. That's what we do. We build resilience here when things don't go exactly right. But you know what? We move on. Last week, Brock was here. Brock, another prognostication show. I'm going to do another prognostication show today because I just love it. I think these shows are so much fun. I mean, beginning of the year, sort of, kind of, by the time these things air, Brock was here. We talked about prognostication 2026 in a real estate. So, but go there and just, do that thing. Do that thing. Listen to our shows. There's 20 plus episodes over there. And you can check out anything to do with reality of real estate. All right. My brother from another mother's here. So happy to get him back so quickly for his 6th visit. And I'm going to have some fun here in just a second. He doesn't even know this. But let me tell you, Robert Bryce is back. 2026 Power Trends, prognostication with power. This is going to be a riot. This is going to be a riot. Robert Bryce is a Texas-based author. He's a journalist. He's a podcaster. His Substack is awesome. And I'm going to encourage throughout the show to go join that Substack if you're interested in any of this content from Robert. Special stuff. You can't beat it. I mean, can't beat it. But he's a journalist, author, podcaster, just a good guy, film producer, public speaker, talks in front of everybody. I could do this. This bio's two pages long in small type. But because this is his 6th visit and I have some fun things I want to do here, I'm going to skip right on through all that because you guys know who he is. He's Robert Bryce, for God's sake. I want to welcome back to the radio program. For his 6th visit, thank you so much for being my friend, Mr. Energy himself, Robert the Man Bryce. How are you, Robert?
Wow, Tom, that is quite the introduction. And 6th time, I've never been invited back anywhere, but now 6 times. This is, I think this might be a world record. I thought you might have wised up by now, but apparently not. You're slow on the uptake, Tom.
This is how it's going to go, everybody. But you know what? We're going to have some fun here. We're going to have fun and we're going to have information overload. I'm going to tell you because we got so much that we want to talk about. But Robert, before we go there, we usually do This Is Your Life. And let's do that first before I jump into my little surprise for you, because this will launch us into the conversation about energy. But to catch everybody else up about what you've been doing the last 6 months and how things are in your life and your family. Please go right ahead. Get warmed up. Go ahead, bro.
Okay. Well, first things first, I'm incredibly lucky in my life. My wife, Lauren, and I have been married. It'll be 40 years in June. We got 3 great kids, Mary, Michael, and Jacob. They're all healthy and mostly happy. And I'm healthy. I'm living the dream here in Austin, Texas. I write about energy and power. This is what I do. It's my purpose, my passion. I'm a very lucky man. How's that?
That's perfect, man. Concise and to the point. Can you tell this guy's done this before, everybody? I mean, Robert's, he's a stud, comes on here. I like to be his radio outlet, podcast outlet, because he still does tons of stuff all over the place. All right. Did I mention annual subscriptions to a Substack? Yeah, I'm going to say that a couple times. All right. Here's the fun thing I wanted to talk about before we get into this sweeping topic that we have here, because energy is just like, well, it drives the world. And I was reading the Substack before the show started, and it's like, all these wars and all this stuff. And, Robert's, his article about energy wars, you look back in time and historical perspective, and it's just all this. But here are the previous shows the titles that I came up with my friend, Robert Bryce. Okay. You guys ready for this? Okay. This is why you want to listen. Whenever Robert Bryce is on this program, you want to listen to this program. Okay. First one, 4 Whys Concerning Energy, Power Hungry podcast with Robert Bryce. The next one was called Power Hungry. See, we have a theme here, everybody, with this power thing. The next one was The Flamethrower. I like that one a lot. Robert's my flamethrowing buddy. Next one is Robust. Now, remember, we're talking about energy here. And then the last time he was here, we talked about Spain drain, the whole thing when they had a little tiny problem over there for a day or so. No big deal. just shut down the economy for like a day or so. Not a problem. All right, bro. What do you think of that? Those are some pretty classic titles, aren't they?
Yeah, all good, my friend.
All right. I got some points from you. Dude, we got so much to talk about with power and your prognostication for 2026 power. Where do we start? Do we just start right at the top with AI and power demand? I mean, why just wind you up and start letting you go? Why don't you just take that one and just roll, bro? Roll.
Well, all right, let's do that. Yes, AI and power demand. The Wall Street Journal had an article today, in fact, where Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, or Meta, has said that his company is planning not just a few dozen gigawatts, but potentially hundreds of gigawatts of power computing capacity. So to put that in perspective, I live in Texas. The total installed base of power generation capacity in Texas right now is around 150 gigawatts. Facebook by itself is saying they want to have more than that. And so I'm from Oklahoma. I'm not here to brag on Texas, but that gives you some idea of the scale of what Facebook is thinking about. Now, will that happen? I don't know, but it is very clear that AI and data centers are the story of the moment, not just here in the US, but around the world. And it is putting strain on power grids all across the country. I was just talking with some friends of mine in Utah. They are with a power provider there. I won't name them. They said their peak demand for their customers about 350 megawatts. They had one customer, a potential hyperscaler, come to them and say, "We want 1.8 gigawatts," and they said, "Get out of town. We can't do that, right?" But it's an anecdote, but 2 or 3 anecdotes make data. So it's not just anecdotes anymore. This is clearly the biggest thing to happen in the U.S. power grid in decades. The increases in power demand are truly remarkable. And this is going to be one of the defining stories of 2026, and I think through 2030 at least.
2 or 3 anecdotes make data. Is that a fact? I mean, is that I like that a lot. I think I could start coming up with some anecdotes myself and just start throwing out facts and creating like surveys.
Yeah, you have 2 or 3 anecdotal stories.
No problem.
Suddenly that's a trend.
No problem, man. If you heard it on the news, it's got to be true. If you saw it on the internet, it's got to be a fact. I mean, Robert Bryce is here.
If it's in the New York Times, yeah.
If it's in the Wall Street Journal, and you know what? I got to look up that article too, because I like to forward articles to Robert, but he's already read these things. Okay, so here's where we're going, everybody. This is the attempt of today with Robert Bryce, 2026 power trends, because we're going to come up on break here in just a minute. So I'm going to set all this up for you. So we started just opening the whole thing up with the AI and the power demand, and this Zuckerberg and the scale. I mean, is this legit? Is this for real? I mean, I like big dreams. I love big dreams. I am a big dreamer, but it's like, okay, let's bring some reality back in here. So yeah, let's talk about that. Natural gas demand and power demand. So you see where we're going here, because AI and power demand, natural gas and power demand, everything's about power demand and how much supply can we get. Fragility of the electric grid. We got a lot of topics to talk here. Rising, that fragility of the electric grid. We've done like almost whole shows on that. Because me being with the network guy, the fragility of the electric grid, I don't think we're going to spend some time on that, because I don't really think, Robert, that people have enough. They really don't grasp how fragile. And I'm glad you're throwing this one in there. Rising electricity prices. Increased opposition to data centers across the U.S. Yep. And with that comes the power supplies that they need because of that. Renewable rejection database. Curious about that one. I don't know much about that one. And what's next for nuclear? If we can get this all crammed into one episode, I may send this over to WKAR at Michigan State University and ask them to nominate it for an MAB award, because it's going to be that great of radio. Michigan Association Broadcast. I'm politicking right now. I'm just saying right now, this is the 2026 Power Trends with Robert Bryce. Should be nominated for an MAB, and we haven't even recorded the thing yet. Okay? We're going to leave it right there. You're listening to the MAB award-winning Tom Matt Show.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Tom Matt Show. I am the aforementioned host, Tom Matt. Guest today is Mr. Robert Bryce, energy guru, kingpin, my friend. Been on the show a bunch of times. Fun stuff. Very important stuff, but fun stuff. 2026 power trends. Just went through the whole list that Robert sent over to me, and it's extensive, so we're going to try and get there. But before we go there, I must promote the sponsor of this radio program, Mr. Brock Fletcher. Guy's the bomb. He was a previous guest, last week's episode. Keller Williams Realty. And as you know, they've helped us so much with our realty needs. Both times. Both times. And it's so important to have a good realtor, people that can manage your money and your real estate. If you've got those people on your team with your family, people you can trust, even if you use them like every 15 years, Brock's totally cool with that. Totally cool with that. Joan Wright of Williamston, who I mention every time now because she's a fan of the show and she's a fan of Brock's and she's a customer of Brock's. Joan Wright, she's listening to the show and she's a customer of Brock's and she trusts Brock and she trusts Brock so much she liked listening to the radio program and the episode. So that's why I mentioned her name. And Joan, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that very much. Give Brock a call, you guys. Couple of numbers here, 517-853-6408 and 517-303-3262 is Brock's cell phone. Use that. Go ahead. Text him. Leave him a voicemail. I'm going to give it to you again. 517-303-3262. He actually said recently that he's actually prefers more than the email. He will get back to you with the email, but with the text messaging, and I'm kind of getting the same way now too with text messaging. So use that number again, 517-303-3262. Tell him you heard it from Tommy. You can go to the website, kwsellingteam.com, which is super slick. Very, very nice. You can go to my website, tommattshow.com. Listen to any of the episodes. Go click down go to the bottom of the homepage, and away you go. Away you go. Away you go. You can click right on his banner, and it'll take you right there. It's all good. And Joan Wright, thank you so much for listening to the show on WKAR. Appreciate that very much. Robert Bryce is here. 2026 power trends. I got to just wind him up and let him go because he sent me over such an extensive list, and we could talk about baseball. We could talk about athletics. We could talk about, but we're talking about power. Okay. We're talking about power. Now we just started to tip this thing with the AI and power demand. This Zuckerberg thing you mentioned. Like I said, Robert, dreams are great, but and we'll get to we'll get into the fragility of the grid here in a second. But is he? What's he smoking?
Well, I just found the exact quote, and this was, I think, just released just January 12th. He said Meta is planning to build tens of gigawatts this decade and hundreds of gigawatts or more over time. However, how we engineer, invest, and partner to build this infrastructure will become a strategic advantage, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I just looked up Texas's summer generation capacity at the end of 2024 was 168 gigawatts. So here you have a single company talking about building as much capacity or more capacity than Texas. I'm looking at California now, 97 gigawatts. So, these are just monster numbers. And I don't know whether Zuckerberg and Sam Altman understand really the scale of what they're talking about. Maybe they do. But the point is, these numbers are just staggeringly large. And I mentioned, you talked about the other themes for this year, and one of the broader stories is fragility of the grid. It's electricity prices that are rising, and that is very clearly the case in the eastern U.S. And then the over-reliance of the grid on gas. So all of this AI demand that is going to be coming online, nearly all of it is going to be met by gas, because solar is not going to be a big player. Nuclear isn't really here yet to meet that demand. So it's going to be natural gas. I'm pro natural gas. I'm very concerned that we're becoming too dependent on a single fuel.
On natural gas itself, Robert? And that single fuel? Right. Is that what you're saying? Why is that? Because of the pipelines and because it seems like, everything that you read, it seems like there's all kinds of potentials with the fracking, but then you hear the stories about how the fields are played out and all that. What is it? Is it the pipeline? Is that the infrastructure holdup, or what is it?
Well, it's deliverability, Tom. So, today it's pretty mild here. I'm in Austin, Texas. It's 60 degrees or so. So not a lot of power demand. Power demand in Texas is primarily met by natural gas. But what we saw 4 years ago during Winter Storm Uri, heating demand went crazy. A lot of gas demand for keeping my house warm, other homes warm, and gas demand for electricity generation. So as a nation, we're very fortunate to have this much natural gas, but I'm very concerned that the power grid is becoming too dependent on gas. And because it's a just-in-time fuel, that creates a vulnerability, and one that we have to be very careful about.
What does that mean, Robert? A just-in-time fuel. Can you break that down for people? Is that kind of is that like a sort of a stock play sort of thought? What is that?
Okay, good question. If let's say Tom Matt is in the power business and he owns a coal plant. Well, if you own a coal plant, you're going to have the railroad come and deliver you a bunch of coal, and you're going to have a big honking pile of coal out in the coal yard next to the power plant. So you can look at that coal pile, or you can estimate how many tons, or know how many tons you have on site. You have it right there. You don't have to wait for the railroads or a truck or somebody else to come and deliver it. Gas is delivered by pipeline, and it is delivered as it's used in the power plant. So you don't have a ready supply that you can just go and say, oh, I need some more. Same with your home generator. If you run it on diesel fuel, you got a big tank of diesel fuel, on-site fuel. Same with nuclear power plants, on-site fuel. You're not waiting for a just-in-time delivery, that is, consume it as you get it.
I'm looking at that. Okay, so in my mind, I'm saying that the pipeline loses its prime. You lose the prime. If you lose that flow, if you lose that, then you got to restart the pipeline. I thought you said adjusted time play, which is actually kind of good. You said a just in time play. I thought it said adjusted, but it's the same principle, because if you have X amount. Right? You have a finite supply, and once that's gone, that's it, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that creates a vulnerability, that if you're not sure, you're not absolutely dead certain that you're going to get that fuel, well, that creates a vulnerability. It creates a security risk. And so this ability to store fuel on site, it's why data centers is another thing we're going to talk about. Why do data centers have big diesel fuel tanks and generators on site? In case they lose grid power, they can rely on their own on-site fuel, which assures them of reliability.
Got it. Basically, in my world in the tech world, it's a single point of failure, everybody. When you have a single point of failure with tech, if you have a single point of failure of your supply of fuel, firing that electrical plant, which is sending juice through a fragile electric grid, we got issues. And then we're just talking to Robert about this. Not trying to scare anybody, just trying to build awareness to all of this. Robert, I'm going to take this through because we're going to come up on break here. Robert Bryce is here, sure. 2026 Power Trends. This is fascinating stuff. Pay attention, everybody, because when our rates go up, you need to understand why this is happening so you can budget your time, budget your money. There's so much that goes into this. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to Brock Fletcher, real estate agent at the selling team with Keller Williams Realty. For more information on services provided by Brock, please call his personal cell phone at 517-303-3262 or by emailing Brock at kwsellingteam.com. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. This week's episode of the Tom Matt Show. My guest is Robert Bryce, power expert out of Austin, Texas. Texas-based author, journalist, podcaster, stud, friend of mine, great guy. When I read the Enron book a few years ago, I was so fascinated by this book. That was one of Robert's big books. And if you ever had a chance to read it, go to the library, check that out. That's a great book. And it's fascinating. For us baby boomers and older Gen Xers, you guys will remember that Enron thing very clearly. And that's why Robert's so cool to come on. I want to mention again, our friends at Keller Williams with Brock, because without Brock, we can't do the radio program. It's so great. And I love doing these testimonials for him because it's pure. I can do my testimonials every day every day 4 times and tell you about, selling big house, buying little house, having Mikey Deadman helping us. The whole staff over there is just wonderful. Our experience with the selling team was excellent. This is a review and testimonial from Ben and Katie from Okemos, Michigan. Beautiful area. Our experience with the selling team was excellent in bold type. They did what they said they would do, which was extremely helpful. They listened to what we needed in a home and found us several houses that met our criteria. Thank you so much. We love our new home. Again, that was Ben and Katie from Okemos, Michigan. You cannot do wrong with Brock and the selling team of Keller Williams Realty. And here's the phone numbers again. And I'll mention Joan's name, Joan Wright's name again, because she's awesome and she listens to the show and she's a fan. 517-853-6408 is the office number. And then the cell phone number that Brock really prefers people use is 517-303-3262. KWSellingTeam.com is the website. And that is that. You can go to our website too. As a matter of fact, TomMattShow.com at the bottom of the homepage is his banner. Click on through and away you go. You can see what we got there. It's easy. Our website's so easy to navigate. It's just a cake. It's super cake. Because I designed it. Or I had people design. I told people what I wanted and then they designed it. How's that sound? Okay. Robert Bryce is here. 2026 Power Trends. Fragility of the electric grid. One of my favorite things to talk about there, partner. First off, the definition. What is it? And then why do people need to know about it? How do we fix this? How long will it take? There we go with the whole show. Like I was saying, when he gave me that point, I was like, this is a massive topic. But go ahead. Do the best you can, man.
Well,
yeah, right.
Let's start with the power grid and why we care. This is the mother network. This is the network upon which all of our modern society depends, whether it's hospitals, traffic lights, communication, water systems, you name it, heating, lighting, all of our cultural, all of our societal support networks depend on the power grid. So if we lose the power grid, we are in a world of hurt. I could use a more colorful language here, Tom, but we're on radio, so I'm going to be very.
Thank you.
Things could go bad very, very quickly.
We get it.
So we cannot overstate the importance of the power grid when it comes to overall society and the needs of society. So we have to be very careful when we think about how we make sure that, or how we assure the reliability, resilience, and affordability of electric power. And we've taken that for granted for decades. And now with the addition of a lot of weather-dependent generation, solar and wind, I'm a longtime critic of both, particularly big wind, very unpopular across rural Michigan. I'm a longtime critic, and proudly so. As we've added a lot of this weather-dependent generation, we've made the grid more fragile. It's been fragilized by this. So this is what we saw in Spain last year, this over-dependence on weather-dependent generation. So these are very important questions, and I believe regulators are starting to understand this and starting to pay more attention. But we didn't get here overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. The fixing the problems that we're facing and assuring cheap, abundant, reliable power in that order is one of the key challenges of the next decade.
Okay, here's where I want to jump in here because I don't know why I didn't think of this before when we were talking about this, because I'm a physical component guy. Okay. And so this is just dawned on me. I swear to God, you guys, fragility of the electric grid. There's two components here. What Robert was just talking about, which is the huge component, the feed, as I would call it, the feed. And then you have the physical layer of the infrastructure itself. And when I think of the fragility of the network, I think of the actual physical components, the actual hardware, the wire, the substations, that kind of stuff. And that's just part of it, everybody. That's just part of it. Now, Robert, and I know you're going to go there with the physical, but we got a lot of upgrades we got to do, and then you throw in the feed and the different fluctuations with the feed. I don't know why the heck I didn't think of that before. I'm sure a lot of people don't. I mean, I think of the electric grid. I think of the wire.
Well, sure. But remember, the grid is everything. The grid is everything from in effect, really, even you can think about the railroad network as part of the grid.
Yep.
Because it delivers coal to the power plant. You could think of pipelines as part of the grid because they deliver the fuel to the power plant. And then you have the power plant and the spinning generators, and then you have the wires, and then you have the transformers, and then you have the step down transformers on the pole near your house. And then you have here's the plug, right? This is part of the grid too. The grid is, in fact, everything from here back to the wellhead here in Texas, or the solar panel or the wind turbine. The grid is all of that. We have to think about this as in a system. It's a system of systems. And as many people have said about the electric grid, it is the world's largest machine. And I think that's a really interesting way to think about it, because it is such a massive, sprawling network of networks, much of it interconnected. Not Texas isn't perfectly interconnected with the rest of the U.S., but much of it interconnected. And somehow, despite having 3,000, nearly 4,000 electric providers in America, over 10,000 generation sites, it all somehow works. It's just incredible that it all works. I mean, the fact that something like this, something this complicated, works as well as it does is truly breathtaking.
Well, when you think of the physics of electricity, and I am not an engineer by any stretch. I'm a talk show host, but I find it fascinating when you think about everything that's applied to it. And I love the title, the Mother Network. I think that's fantastic. The other thing, and we got a minute and a half to go before we go to break here, Robert, so I just want to get a quick comment on this. My other fear is the vulnerability through unfortunate acts that people may want to attack our network and take down parts of it, which then you get that cascading effect. How do we somehow prevent that? Is there some way that people can help prevent that, or what can we do?
I have a Generac, Tom.
There you go.
So, people ask me about what am I doing? I bought a Generac, and I'm married. I mentioned my wife, Lauren, earlier. Very fortunate in my life. We've been married 40 years. She's a very lucky woman. But we had this conversation now. It's about 2 years ago. And I said, well, I met a guy, he does these installs. I'd like to get a Generac. She said, how much is it? I said, $15,000. And she says, well, I don't want to spend $15,000 on that stupid thing. I'd rather go to Europe or do something else. And I said, well, I understand that. And then she says, but if we don't get it and there's a blackout, then you're going to blame me. So now we have a Generac.
And we are not sponsored by Generac.
That's how that went.
But let me tell you, if Generac wants to sponsor either one of us, we are more than happy to accept that sponsorship, because we believe in power. I mean, around here, we believe in power. It's a fact. I mean, the only way you can do this is have that local source. And for your home, again, like Robert's saying, it's having a power substation in your backyard or in your basement or wherever you're going to have that generator. And having the power to get to the Generac, however you're getting that gas probably, and making it work. All right, let me reset this thing. This is so much fun. I love this stuff. But, talking about that, I see my note about terrorists and vulnerabilities, and I'm about ready to go downstairs after we get done recording this, everybody. And I'm gonna pitch to Sandy, hey, you ever heard of Generac? I think we need to get a Generac. My buddy Robert's pitching me on a Generac, and we're getting no compensation from it whatsoever, everybody from Generac. But Generac, again, if you'd like to sponsor Robert, he's the guy to sponsor Robert. All right. This is, you're listening, everybody, to the Tom Matt Show. Robert Bryce is here, 2026 Power Trends. We do talk, we have fun, but this is serious stuff. We'll be right back.
This segment of the Tom Matt Show is brought to you in part by the Source of Light and Power by band leader Ark of All and broadcaster Mitch Anderson. Hear the sound that is endorsed by Odyssey headphones, linear tube audio, RME converters, and Peluso microphones at sourceoflightandpower.bandcamp.com.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Tom Matt Show. 2026 Power Trends with my buddy Robert Bryce, brother from another mother. We're almost exactly the same age. I think we're almost born on the same day. Crazy. Robert, I want to say, before I get too much farther, I met a student today, a senior at Michigan State University. The guy's name is Sapi, S-A-P-E. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's a chemical engineer. And I asked him, I said, because this is what I do at the gym. I mean, I see this kid working, the kid's killing it. I mean, so I don't even talk to people unless they're killing it, especially since I've never seen the kid before. But I talked to him because he's killing it. He's a chemical engineering student. He's a senior. And I asked him, I said, what do you want to go into? And he says, of all things, I want to go into power. And I'm like, dude, you just scored, because I'm interviewing the king of power today, and he's a friend of mine, and I'm going to do a soft intro for you, and you do what you got to do. I said, that's it. I do a soft intro, follow up with them, send them an email, be nice, be kind, be respectful, whatever. Kid will be great. Just want to give that plug out there for everybody. Help young people, because if we can help out young people make connections like this, and just, it was just a second in the gym and it sort of worked out. And the kid sends me a nice long text message. It was fantastic. Robert, how would you like people to connect with you other than like a soft intro like I'm going to do with this student that I met today? How would you like people to connect with you? And listen, everybody, please subscribe to the Substack, Robert Substack, because it's good. And I want to get a few subscriptions off of him being on the radio show. So please do that. Would you please go ahead, Robert?
Sure. Well, the short answer is I'm robertbryce.substack.com. Pretty straightforward. But I'm easy to find on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok. Yeah, I'm on TikTok. You bet I'm on TikTok.
You better believe it.
Yeah, heck yeah. So I'm easy to find, Tom, on the Google. But yes, I write almost exclusively now on Substack, robertbryce.substack.com. Does
your daughter still help you with some of the video ideas, or do you just cut all those?
She does.
Yep. Yeah. Really nice. I mean, here's the thing, everybody. Robert does these 1 minute, 2 minute clips, and they're just very short, tight, very, very good. I watch a lot of them. Many as they come across mine, I'm watching them. And they're very interesting. So check them out, man. It's well worth the subscription. Please go check that out at Substack. Okay, let's get back into it here. Right, this is a hot button topic. Rising electricity prices. People were just saying, this, that. We're talking about the fragility of the electric grid, and you were just talking about the just-in-time delivery of gas and all these kind of things. All of these little factors that go into this rising electricity prices. Can we boil this down into something simple or not?
Well, there are many factors for what goes into electricity prices, Tom. Let's be clear. It's not just the price of coal or just the price of natural gas or the price of uranium or price of solar panels. It also includes high voltage transmission lines. It includes the local distribution networks, the cost of the linemen you need to people to maintain the systems. All of these things are in one way or another go into the electric bill. And in states like Michigan, where you also may have subsidies for certain industries, those may also be fitted into the bill as well. So the key issue, though, is that we see in specific states, and my friends Isaac Orr and Mitch Rawling recently did a report showing that electricity prices in heavily Democratic states tend to be significantly higher than those in red states. Why is that? Imagine that. What's at play here? A lot of mandates, particularly for weather-dependent generation. So I think that insight that they came up with is very important. And particularly when you look at states like California, where they have all these mandates for net zero, and you have this net zero target in Michigan as well, which you won't meet. But that's one of the reasons why we see these prices are going up. That said, you also have, particularly in the eastern states and the region in the RTO PJM, data centers are one of the key contributing factors as well. So many factors at play here, but what we've seen, particularly in heavily Democratic states over the past few years, rapidly rising electricity prices, which are regressive. Low-income people pay more of their income for energy costs than do wealthy people. So I'm opposed to that. When it comes to that, I'm an absolute liberal. I don't think we should be taxing low-income people more than we do high-income people. But that is, in fact, what we're doing with this kind of electricity, these electricity mandates.
It is the way we structure this stuff, you guys. It's crazy. Paying subsidies, different states. It's crazy. We have to do another whole show on it. Maybe we'll just take each one of these topics that we're having. This will be show 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, because it's like each one of these points that Robert sent over are so important for the 2026 power trends. Okay, so we got the nutshell on that one. Increased opposition to data centers across the U.S. Is that in fact because of the data center, or is that in fact because of the power generation, or both, or what's going on with that?
All of the above. All of the above. And I work with my son, Jacob. I also work with Mary. Jacob and I worked on the data center rejection database. I have for many years now, 15 years, been collecting the renewable rejection database, which includes now almost 1,150 examples of rejections or restrictions of wind, solar, and battery projects around the world. We have more recently started tracking data center rejections, and we've seen Chandler, Arizona, I think was among the more recent ones, local opposition, fierce local opposition to big tech coming into often small towns saying, we want to put this massive data center in your town. And the locals are saying, well, this doesn't really help us. It might bring tax base, but what about power prices? What about water demand? What about real estate prices? And so you've seen, and what I notice in writing about these events, Tom, is that this kind of opposition is not about left-right politics. It's people who are Republicans and conservatives versus and people who are liberals and Democrats coming together to fight many of these types of energy development projects because they're concerned about their neighborhoods. Everyone everywhere cares about their neighborhoods. So this data center opposition is just another example of how energy policy and land use policy go hand in hand.
I don't think people realize, Robert Bryce, our guest today, everybody, 2026 Power Trends, kingpin of power information based in Austin, Texas. Get his Substack, please. Annual subscriptions are available. I don't think people understand that with data centers, and I know a smidgen. I have a degree in this kind of stuff, and I've worked at the university, and I kind of get the whole data center thing. But data centers use a lot of resources, and even though they don't employ very many people, this is the thing. Once you build a data center, everybody, you're not going to have a lot of people working. This is not like a factory where you're making cars. This is where you're just passing data, and you don't need people for that. Once you build that center and you have maintenance people there for it, which are probably contracted anyways, that's it. So, and then you got the power generation, but the water and the resources that you use for the data center itself, I think, being a Great Lakes guy, that the water situation is the worst thing, Robert. Is that a good point?
It's one of the key points. There's no doubt about it. And it's one of the reasons why local communities have been so concerned about this. Like neighborhood, like real estate values, everyone everywhere cares about water and water quality and water quantity. And some of these data center projects, they take massive amounts of water for cooling. So none of this is easily resolved, but it's something that, as a reporter, I find very interesting and have been spending a lot of time trying to get my arms around what the scale of the opposition and from where it's and how it is manifesting itself in different communities. So you saw something last year in Indianapolis where widespread opposition, and Google was the developer. They pulled the proposal from the Indianapolis City Council's agenda right before it was going to be voted on because they knew it was going to be voted down. So this is, again, and it's not just the U.S. Like the opposition to solar, wind, batteries, the opposition to these data centers is international. We're seeing it in spades in Western Europe. And there was one project some in Ireland, if I recall correctly. Got to do some more work on that. But again, these are massive buildings, massive footprints, massive power demand. And local people are looking at them saying, what's in it for us?
And I'm going to carry this through to break here, Robert, because we're going to come up on it. But Robert Bryce is here, everybody. And I'm thinking, too, everybody, that, and I don't want to be a doomsdayer because obviously I have money invested in our savings, our retirement zone savings. But when the rubber hits the road here and AI sort of does the stumble and bumble and the bubble starts to let some air out, I'm not saying pop, but this is a huge issue for these data centers and all of this price increasing with this market. And I'm not trying to say, hey, because I like making money. Believe me, I love making money. But it's like, let's be real. You guys got to understand what we're up against here. There's more to it, and this could have overlapping ramifications for sure. Okay, Robert Bryce is here. We got a couple more things we're going to talk about. We come break. We're going to make it actually. Renewable rejection database. We just talked about that a little bit. We'll get to that. And then lastly, Robert's going to talk about what's next for nuclear. What's next for nuclear? Robert Bryce. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to Brock Fletcher, real estate agent at the selling team with Keller Williams Realty. For more information on services provided by Brock, please call his personal cell phone at 517-303-3262 or by emailing Brock at kwsellingteam.com. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Tom Matt Show. If you missed any portion of this episode, you got to go get the podcast because this has been a really good one. As I said, when Robert Bryce is on the show, 2026 Prognostication Power Trends, we should win an MAB for this because it's just very good, informative radio, straight up facts, straight up great stuff. And so I'm nominating ourselves for a 2027, 2026, however that works, because it'd be next year. But we're nominating ourselves for a MAB for this episode. So there, it's just been stated. Robert, how would you like people to connect with you? Again, please, quickly, let's do that, and then we'll get into the last couple points.
Sure, of course. Very briefly, robertbryce.substack.com. Did I mention robertbryce.substack.com? I hope, Tom, I mentioned robertbryce.substack.com.
Did we mention getting an annual subscription for less than, a few cups of coffee a week? If you do the numbers, I've done videos on this on how to become, financially free, everybody. If you take away one of those cups of coffee a week that costs you $6, there's your annual subscription to Robert's newsletter right there. See, I just solved it for you. Boom. Go get it. It's one cup of coffee. It costs you one cup of coffee a week. You cannot go wrong with this. All right. Renewable rejection database. Boy, I bet that's making people happy. So your son's working on this?
Well, he and I have been working on it, and so my son Michael is my webmaster. So he's got he convinced me, Dad, you got to up your game on robertbryce.com. So I've done that. He's done new formatting for the renewable rejection database, so we have it in tabular form. It is the only, and by the way, my youngest son Jacob, he has helped me collect and collate all of the data. I was only focused on the U.S. for many years, and then we expanded it to the international arena. And to put this in context, so 1,150 roughly, it's 1,146 now, I think, 1,146 rejections or restrictions of wind and solar, nearly all of them since 2015. But in 2025 alone, to give you an idea of the scale of the backlash, in the British Isles, Britain, England, Ireland, and Scotland, last year alone, there were 70 rejections of wind or solar. 70. Now, this doesn't agree with this popular narrative about, they're green and clean and renewable and la, 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 la. The reality is these wind and solar projects are facing fierce opposition, and they're facing fierce opposition all over the world. And as you know, Tom, we've talked about this before, that opposition is stout in Michigan. In fact, it's so stout that your governor, Whitmer, and the Michigan legislature about a year and a half or 2 years ago passed a measure that allows the bureaucrats in Lansing to Bigfoot local communities to force them to take wind and solar projects they don't want. That is how unpopular these projects are. And I see that through several lenses, but one of them is a partisan lens. And I say this as a member of the disgusted party. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm disgusted. But you have a bunch of Democratic bureaucrats and legislators in Lansing. You have a Democratic House, Democratic Senate, Democratic governor, essentially telling rural residents who are predominantly Republican, up yours, you don't like that solar project, you don't have a voice, we're going to steamroll you. And that's what we've seen over and over and over again is big out of state and many times foreign companies coming into rural Michigan, rural areas of the U.S. and saying, we want to build this project. And local people are saying, well, looking at it and saying, what's in it for us? And so we've seen in Ida Township, for one, I was, my wife is from Ann Arbor. We went there a few years ago that did fierce opposition to a solar project, and that project eventually was voted down.
I love what you said about you know what? I live in a medium-sized town here in Lansing. We hate getting big-footed. You know what? You guys stop big-footing us. Let the people in Ida Township rule what they want to do in their own township. I mean, don't tell me that you're going to come put a solar panel in my backyard, because basically that's what's happening here. Because when you take away your rights as a property owner and say, well, we don't see it that way, we're going to put that thing in your backyard anyways. Kind of the same thing, basically, right?
Sure, absolutely. And this is, the right of local control has been bedrock part of American government for decades, even I don't know, longer than that. And here we have a situation where you have big moneyed interests talking this green energy talk. I could use a more colorful language there. These, and I think they're just climate change carpetbaggers, full stop. Climate change carpetbaggers, these big corporations, some of them publicly traded, coming into small towns across the country, many times foreign companies coming into small towns across the country and saying, we're going to try and Bigfoot you, we're going to roll over you, we don't care what you want, we're going to get what we want. And they have friends in Lansing, or they have friends in the state capitol, and there's a very heavy partisan divide, because Democrats get the overwhelming majority of their votes in cities, and Republicans get a lot of their votes from rural areas. So it's a urban rural divide. It's a partisan divide. It's a class divide. It's a generational divide, and it's manifesting itself in these rejections.
It's an educational divide too, because it's the people who are not educated and they don't understand what is all involved with this, and then there are those that are. Okay. Enough on that. The disgusted party too. I like that too. I'm gonna join that one myself. What's next for nuclear there, my friend? Robert Bryce, our power expert, 2026 power trends. What's next for nuclear?
Well, that's how much time do we have left, Tom?
Well, like I said during our break, each one of these topics is a whole show, and I'm serious. I want to do, but I've always been enamored, Robert, with those small. I forget the acronym for them, but the small units that they can manufacture, and they just drop them into place. And they're small nuclear sites. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm referring to? They're like manufactured.
They're called small modular reactors.
Modular,
yes.
yeah. Thank you.
I've been reporting on them extensively on my website. We have SMR Intelligence US, which is a compendium of all of the SMR companies in the US. There are now more than 40 of them, with 46, I think, different reactor designs. We also have the Global Intelligence, SMR Intelligence Global, which is the SMR database for compendium for all of the non-US SMR companies. The problem, Tom, isn't lack of good designs. It's not lack of potential. It's the gap between proposing a reactor, getting it permitted, and getting it built. And that's the challenge now. I'm very hopeful for nuclear. I've been pro-nuclear for a very long time. I've been saying the same thing for more than 15 years. If you're anti-carbon dioxide and you're anti-nuclear, you're pro-blackout. Well, I'm anti-blackout. But the nuclear industry in the U.S. declined over decades. It's going to take decades to bring it back.
Well, that's in my mind, that's a solution to part of the data center issues with the resources. When you bring that site close to the data center, now you don't have the transmission issues. Now you've got that, what did you call it, a just-in-time fuel source, and away you go with that. You still got all the other issues that we're talking about. Okay, Robert, we got about 2 minutes to go before we're going to wrap this bad boy, and I wanted to give you plenty of time for a good takeaway. Thank you for all of these points. They're all good for each one is a full show. That's how wide these topics are with this, everybody, and that's why it's so nice to have a friend like Robert Bryce come on our show and share his knowledge with us. So what would you like the takeaway to be this time, brother? I mean, it's such a huge topic. It's just like, what's your takeaway?
There are many, I think, Tom. Look at what's happening in Venezuela. I wrote a piece just yesterday called Energy Wars, that this latest snatching Maduro, kidnapping him is in fact what happened. This is the latest example of conflicts being focused on energy and power. We live in a very dynamic world, and the energy landscape has changed more in the last few years than it has in the last few decades. The resurgence of nuclear is an important story. I guess my takeaway for your listeners is make sure you're informed about what's really going on. There's a lot of spin, a lot of hype around energy and power. And a lot of people who are hyping and spinning things have money at stake, and they're going to try and convince you that we don't need hydrocarbons, we don't need oil, we don't need natural gas or nuclear. They're just flat wrong. And so I would encourage people, be informed and know your numbers and spend some time with it. It will be worth your while.
All right. Make sure you're informed. That's a good takeaway. The way you're going to make sure you're informed on this topic is you're going to go to Robert Bryce. You're going to subscribe to his Substack. You're going to say, I want the Tom discount, which is absolutely zero. But you get a pat on the back from Tom for doing that. That's a nice thing to do. But get the annual subscription here. Robert Bryce is a Texas-based author. He's my buddy, journalist, podcaster, film producer, and public speaker. He has done it all. Here's what we talked about on this show. In case you just joined and you're getting at the very end of the broadcast here, everybody. But this is what Robert and I talked about throughout this episode. It's just been so outstanding. AI and power demand. The Zuckerberg scale thing was just craziness. Do I think it's going to happen? Maybe in 50 years. Probably not in my lifetime, but who knows? I mean, the way things change so quickly, hard to say. Never say never with anything. Natural gas demand and power demand. Deliverability was the takeaway on that one. The fragility of the electric grid. One thing that I got clear on that one, Robert, was, the difference between, in the mother network, that was a cool saying you had there. But between the physical and the fuel, the feed side of things, everybody, that's the part that I really took away. Increased opposition to data centers in the U.S. That's huge. Renewable rejection database. That's pretty sweet. And then the nuclear. We talked about nuclear. If our show fits your business or group's mission, we want to be of service to you through our guests like a Robert Bryce. Always remember, before you can share love with others, you must love yourself first. Thanks again to my brother from another mother, Robert Bryce, the energy guru from Austin, Texas. Sandy, Brock, we'll talk to everybody next weekend. Have a great week, everybody. Go out and ignite your life. Good day now. Remember, the Tom Matt Show is a production of Boomers Rock Media. We want to bring your story to life. Thank you to Mitch Anderson, our producer, and Vanessa, our video coordinator. You guys are awesome. We are out.
The Tom Matt Show is produced by Mitch Anderson of Black Circle Studios. Original music from the Source of Light and Power by the Ark of All.